Hey guys, welcome to the Restart Replay podcast. I'm your host Nick, and with me I have Landon.
How's it going?
And I've got Steve.
Hey there.
So guys, this is just going to be a general sort of chat podcast because a few of us over at Restart Replay are really wanting to get some conversations happening. A lot of exciting stuff going on in games at the minute. Speaking of which, we're getting into the chunk of the year, nearly halfway through. A lot of good games coming out. Just thinking about Game of the Year predictions. I know it's pretty early, but there's been such good games out lately. You can't help but think about later on this year what's going to make the final cut for that top tier. Steve, why don't you start us off? Do you have a potential Game of the Year that you've come across already?
To be honest, the one I was running with for quite a while would be Dark Souls 2. I know a lot of people would probably pick that. Whether it's everyone's choice, I don't know, because obviously a lot of people think it's just too damn hard. But
yeah,
for me, it's definitely a potential.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Playing through that one, I actually just finished that last week, and that was really tough, but I think it makes it all the more satisfying when you actually do get through it, so it's definitely up there.
Yeah.
I feel ashamed I actually haven't picked up the game yet. I've been waiting for a price shop. I've heard it's excellent, though, so I definitely could see why it's up there.
Yeah, it's not the fear, Landon. It's not the fear that's got into you.
No. Yeah. No, it's just I've been trying to space out my purchases, and sadly Dark Souls wasn't on the agenda, which it was probably a bad choice. I've been hearing great things.
Yeah. And have you got any other conflicting ones there, Steve?
Well, on a personal note, I mean, Child of Light is definitely up there for me because I just thought that was absolutely amazing. I know that quite a lot of the big websites have been giving it Game of the Month, so whether that'll spread into Game of the Year, I don't know. Because I know that Journey, for example, a while ago, that got Game of the Year. So I can see Child of Light going the same way.
Yeah, I know what you mean for sure. And that's something that we'll bring up later in the podcast because you got the chance to review that one. Landon, do you have any other ones like that you'd like to contribute?
It's been there's been so many great games, but I mean, for a personal level, for me, I really enjoyed South Park: The Stick of Truth.
Yeah, for sure.
I know, it's a great game.
Yeah,
I know you guys got an edited version in the UK and in Australia, I believe.
Yep, it's pretty awful.
But
nah.
Yeah, but I even heard that the censorship was hilarious. Just everything about the game is just phenomenal. I mean, the combat system is a little simple, and I definitely feel like games have developed, past, the turn-based strategy type of, combat. But, I definitely feel like we didn't really think that this game was going to be as good as it was because of the previous, South Park games, or even, movie license, TV show license games. And I was just really impressed that they fully, brought together the writing and made an enjoyable experience all around.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, Landon. I don't know what I was expecting when I picked it up. I was a huge South Park fan, and to see it being treated with, such respect and stuff with Matt and Trey doing the writing.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So good to see, and is there anything you guys think, because I'm quite in a similar boat than you, actually, I would think Infamous was pretty enjoyable as well.
Oh, Infamous is a great game. Yep.
I wish it was my Game of the Year so far, but unfortunately, I don't think it is because I'm a huge fan of that franchise. But Child of Light and South Park just, seem to be a little bit better quality than that was this year. But who knows what happens in the end? Is there anything that you guys have heard announced that you might see at E3 or something that you think could, topple your Game of the Year this year?
Well, this year it's got to be Destiny. Obviously, is one of the big ones coming up later the year.
Oh, 500 million.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's crazy.
No, I definitely agree with Steve. Yeah, Destiny, definitely. I'm excited to see more of that. I'm surprised they showed so much last E3, even with a little gameplay.
Yeah. What about Watch Dogs as well? You guys fan of that?
I'll definitely be picking up Watch Dogs. Yeah. What is that? I think it's May 27th, something like that. At least in the US.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I haven't made my mind up about Watch Dogs yet. It looks good, but I don't know if it'll be as good as the hype's making out. I haven't decided yet.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to Mario Kart 8.
Yeah, that
Very
as well,
much.
for sure, yeah. I'm a huge Nintendo fan, so I can't wait to see what happens with that.
Yeah, I'm excited for the online. Looks like they're kind of, going guns a-blazing there, getting all the features. And even with Smash Bros, they're doing a lot of new things, like the Glory mode, for the competitive nature, and then, like, just for fun, just, fool around and stuff. So I think they're definitely doing a good job, even if the Wii U sales are down.
Yeah, I
Even
agree.
if the 3DS sales are down, at least they're trying to push something,
Yeah, and I was like instantly as soon as Mega Man got announced for that game, I was picking it up. So I was already a huge fan, and to see Mega Man in that amongst Mario and all that stuff is just something I have to see. So
yeah.
but yeah, we talked about it a little bit earlier with Child of Light and how great that's doing. Steve, you recently reviewed it. You give it a 9, was that?
Yep, that's right.
Yep. So if you could basically just, I don't know, give us a little summary of, what it's about for the people who maybe haven't heard anything about it, what would you say that would be?
Yeah, so Child of Light is basically it's kind of a cross between a 2D platformer and the way they described it was that they wanted it to be like a homage to JRPGs, but really, for me, it's just done so much better than a lot of the JRPGs that it's supposed to be paying tribute to. So when I first got it, I hadn't seen that much about it, but just like the production quality of it just absolutely blew me away. The artwork is unbelievable when you see it. I mean, you've played it yourself, haven't you? You know what I'm talking about there with the artwork.
Yeah, I absolutely have to agree with you on that one. I think also the soundtrack blew me away as well. Like, it's just so beautifully composed, and it all seems to come together so perfectly almost that. And I was like you as well. I didn't really hear much about it. I did hear bits and pieces, and I knew it was something I wanted to experience, but I definitely wasn't putting it up the top of the best games that have come out this year. Like, I didn't know anything about it before that, so. But I'm really, really, really happy that I picked it up, and I'd urge anyone that is kind of sitting on the fence that to definitely give it a go, because it'll be worth your time, especially for the low price as well.
Yeah, I'll definitely pick it up then.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier comparing it to Journey. I know that a few years ago Journey just suddenly came out of nowhere as just a PlayStation exclusive, just a downloadable title. No one really knew much about it, and then all of a sudden it became Game of the Year for a lot of different people. So I think Child of Light has a real chance of doing the same sort of thing, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think it's very similar to Journey, even in like the movement as well. Like the way that Aurora kind of floats around is very similar to the way that Journey's protagonist does, and the music is both, really beautifully composed. The artwork's really good. So yeah, I definitely see what you were saying, the comparison to Journey come through. But yeah, I mean, it's just I'm trying to even get the word out about it because it wasn't it's publicized. So all my friends that are gamers, I'm trying to persuade them to get on the Child of Light bandwagon, and hopefully they do that for their own sake.
Is there replayability in the game, or is it kind of just like a one and done thing?
Yeah, there is a New Game Plus, once you've beaten the game.
Okay, yeah.
Because with it being an RPG, obviously you do level up as you go. You can unlock skills, and really in one playthrough you're not going to be able to unlock everything. So doing a New Game Plus does let you carry on. Obviously it bumps up the difficulty for you, and you can carry on and unlock more of your skills. There's nothing exactly new in the New Game Plus. It doesn't add anything else in, but if you enjoy the game, which really you probably will if you play it, then doing it again on New Game Plus can be a lot of fun, definitely.
And even on the combat system as well, although it's not completely original, it's just done with the timeline down the bottom where you want to interrupt people's attacks as well as get your own off without being sent back to the original timer at the start.
So it's almost
is
like
just
Paper Mario.
yeah. There's a timeline at the bottom, and depending on which characters you're using and stuff, your speed is altered, and you get to a particular point where you're going to decide what you want to do, whether that's attack, defend, use a spell, etc. And then you've got to wait an actual time before you can cast it, and in between that time, you can get interrupted and things like that. So there's a lot of strategy involved in it, but it's surprisingly simple and deep at the same time, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Probably doesn't, but it's just... Not only did I have fun watching everything unfold, like the story's quite touching, and like you said, the artwork's really good. I had fun playing it in the battles as well. Like, it's in a very addictive battle system, so I could quite easily see myself going to this New Game Plus.
Yeah, like I say, the developers made a big thing of saying that it's supposed to be like a tribute to JRPG style with that turn-based battle system, but really I just think it does it a lot better than a lot of JRPGs who use similar things. I just think it's really solid and really, really well done.
Yeah, the tribute in itself could end up trumping a lot of ones that it was originally sourcing, so that's the funny thing about that. But so yeah, I'm excited to see how it stacks up at the end of the year, and I'll probably be putting my 2 cents forward for it.
Yeah, definitely, same here.
One thing I did want to talk about and bring up here is there seems to be a lot of delays going around in the recent year. I mean, we have articles up on the site about Dying Light being delayed to 2015, and the Elder Scrolls Online for consoles were delayed, which is a huge thing. As well as we were just talking about Watch Dogs, which had a huge delay attached to that as well. What are you guys' thoughts on this? On all these delays, do you think that it's going to be a good thing in the end because they're taking their time to perfect the product, or do you think that they should have, originally built this time in when announcing their release date as not to upset everyone?
For me, it's the length of time that stuff gets delayed is the awkward one. I'm all for people putting back a game to make sure that it's good and bug free and the launch is really good. That's fine, but like, Dying Light's been delayed till next year. The Elder Scrolls one on consoles was put back 6 months. It's a long time to just suddenly decide that your game's not ready by that amount, if you know what I'm saying.
Like, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, too. I mean, unless it's like Gearbox with Duke Nukem Forever, I can't really think of a game that's really been delayed for so long and has turned out really bad. I mean, unless you guys can think of any. I think delaying a game, in a sense, just allows for that polish and all that. But I do agree with you, Steve. Like, when they delay the game like a year, it's just like, why would you shoot for the original day at all? If they released it, like, what would the game would have been like?
It seems to be that unless there's unforeseen circumstances which come up, which in cases actually do happen, but in most cases, it's kind of, I feel that shooting for that original date, when it's off by a year, was never going to happen. And I feel like that's been happening more and more recently, so I'm not too sure why it seems to be a growing trend. Maybe it's just, the new hardware and stuff that people are not used to, but, it does upset certain people, and it's going to cancel pre-orders and things like that, so they are damaging their own game, but at the same time, I'd rather a game be polished than not polished, so it's just an unfortunate circumstance I think everyone's going to have to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about Drive Club. Drive Club's been delayed multiple times.
Yeah, that's a big one.
It was supposed to be a launch. Yeah, it was supposed to be a launch game, and then I think it was delayed to spring, and now it's coming out, I believe, in October. And I mean, I feel like one of the reasons all these games have been being delayed is that, like, Watch Dogs was being pushed to be like a launch day game or a launch window game. And, they don't hit their mark, and they're just deciding to, push them off, and just try to get, I guess the best experience. Like, I think Drive Club, unlike Forza 5, I felt like Forza 5 was a very rushed game. I don't know if you guys have played that. There weren't many tracks, not that many cars compared to the other Forza games. And I'm almost kind of impressed by the Drive Club developers to, push their game back and back and back to really put their heart and soul in the game. So I'm kind of interested to see how that turns out.
Yeah, it is a double-edged sword in the fact that I'm sure you guys and I have seen plenty of games that we look at and we go, you know what, they could use a little bit of tweaking here. They should have held on to it for longer to polish it up a bit more. And then there's games like even Infamous was delayed by about a month, and that killed me. And that was only a month. I'd hate to think of someone that was really invested in, Elder Scrolls or something that would have to wait even longer, especially with it already being out on PC.
Yeah.
But yeah, I suppose it's something that hopefully will disperse going forward in the console generation, because I suppose that when you're used to the hardware, it's going to be easier to predict what you can and can't do and the problems that might arise. But hopefully that's a trend we see go down in the coming years.
I guess really, with Watch Dogs being the first one to come out, this is the first chance we get to see if delaying a game is really worth it or not. If Watch Dogs is completely polished and brilliant, then yeah, it'll be worth the wait. But if there's anything wrong with it, I think people are going to slate it for the fact that they had to delay it and it's still not right.
Yeah, definitely a do or die for Ubisoft, I think. So E3 is coming up pretty soon, within a month, which is the biggest gaming conference of the year as far as Sony goes, and Nintendo and Microsoft and everything like that. Personally, I'm really looking forward to seeing. There's apparently some Zelda U information coming out, of the new Zelda, so I'm going to be really excited to see any of that if I do get a chance. Landon, is there anything that you're really excited to see at E3 or would like to see at E3?
Well, personally, I'm very excited to see what EA is going to do with the Star Wars license. I heard that Battlefront 3 is going to make an appearance. Or
yeah,
not
I heard that
Battlefront
too,
3,
yeah.
but just Battlefront in general.
Yeah,
and,
Battlefront 2 was so good.
Oh, yeah. And I even heard, I'm just really interested to see what they're going to do. We've been hearing all these, EA studios supposedly making Star Wars games, and, with Star Wars 7 coming out, 2015, they need to start, kind of getting the excitement back, and I think it's really going to hopefully change my opinion of EA, which I've, had a very, negative opinion. I'm sure you guys too about EA for the last couple of years.
I think that's the standard version of it, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So I think it'll be very interesting to see what they're going to do with that. Destiny, like we said before, Destiny's going to be a big one. But I'm just excited for the surprise reveals. That's what I really look forward to in E3. So it's just it's going to be a good time. Summer's coming, so summer games. We'll have some new news on video games, so it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, for sure. How about yourself, Steve?
Yeah, again, definitely surprise ones. I love it when we just suddenly get a game that no one's ever heard of, and you're just like, whoa, that looks amazing, In terms of possible announcements, maybe something about the new Halo would be nice, because we've had very little info on that so far. I think, well, for me personally, I'm a big Final Fantasy lover. I play the Final Fantasy 14, the MMO. They're supposed to be doing something pretty big at E3, maybe a new expansion or anything like that. So I'll definitely be looking at info on that as well.
Yeah, and with as far as E3 goes, I remember being so excited when they announced Infamous Second Son. So I can see that definitely happening. With the surprises are almost, I'd almost agree in saying that they're the best part, because I'd be very, very surprised if there was nothing Halo at the conference for Microsoft, because that's such a big draw. Yeah, especially after the teaser last year, they'd have to bring out some sort of thing, and apparently there's news going around about a very similar thing with Uncharted, because Uncharted had that very, very, very quick teaser last year, so the apparent thing we're going to see this year you'd almost have to think of some kind of clip, or not. I'm not asking for gameplay, but you think that some form of trailer actually showing Drake would have to show up, just as the same as I feel like for Halo you'd have to show a video of Master Chief or something like that to keep people's interest. Hell, who am I saying? They're going to be interested no matter what. But to keep
Exactly,
to keep people happy is, I think, what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think the Uncharted one is a good shout there, because obviously Naughty Dog have just, they've not got something that they're doing at the moment, as in publicly doing at the moment, other than The Last of Us on PS4. So maybe they are in fact ready for a new Uncharted. Who knows?
And I think it's smart for them as well to show something to show they're still on the right page, because I don't know if you guys have been keeping track, but their staff seems to be dropping like flies, like their head writer, Amy Henning, and all this stuff departed.
Yeah,
So
they've lost a lot.
And artists and things like that. So I think it's really important for them to, stick their head out the door and just let everyone know that, hey, we're still making great games. Here's one of the great games we're working on right now. And just to, calm people down that might be wondering if it's under jeopardy.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. I think it's really, a pivotal point for even the next-gen consoles, because I kind of feel like, for the most part, both consoles, the Xbox One, the PS4, have kind of, laid their cards down with Titanfall, Infamous. I mean, there's a few other games that, we've been hearing about and all that. But I definitely feel like E3 is going to be a time that, I mean, I don't have buyer's remorse for my Xbox One or PS4, but if people do, it's going to be a time when they're really going to be like, oh, there's so many great games, coming out in the next few years. I can't wait. And, yeah, I think it's probably one of the biggest E3s I think we've had, or are going to have, recently.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be into the swing of the new generation, and you're going to have Nintendo doing its thing now of not actually being at E3, but having a Nintendo Direct for E3, which is weird, but that's what they want to do. So it's definitely going to be one of the biggest times of the year in regards to gaming, and a very important E3 for both companies. Or three companies, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, I think going back to Nintendo, I think it's also a very, very, big point for them, especially with, Wii U sales down, 3DS sales supposedly not under expectations. So I think they need to start showing some, some real reason to own a Wii U. Because, I mean, I really enjoy my Wii U. I just want some more games, and I think it's going to be a great time for them to really show why a Wii U is a good purchase, right now in the middle of this, kind of titans fighting each other, like Sony and Microsoft.
Yeah,
so it's going to be real interesting.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one. And they just announced they announced their third consecutive operating loss for the fiscal year, so they're going to need to decide what they want to do with their future, because obviously the Wii U isn't traveling like they'd hoped at all. I own a Wii U myself, and I agree with you in the fact that I'm quite, happy with it, but I would like more things to play on it. And with Mario Kart and Smash Bros. Coming our way, I'm sure I'm going to get my wish, but it'd be interesting to see how they handle the situation, because their console isn't traveling anything like they'd hoped, but their 3DS sales are probably better than they originally hoped, or as projected. So
yeah,
it'd be interesting to see whether they decide to well, they're kind of doing that with Smash Bros. They've announced the release of the Smash Bros. Earlier for 3DS, much earlier than the Wii U. For me, is strange. If you want to boost profits for your Wii U, wouldn't you either bring them out at the same time?
Be the other way around, yeah.
Yeah.
Or same time, yep. Yeah. I thought that was a very strange tactic, I guess.
Because I know that if I had to choose a version to play, it's definitely going to be the one on Wii U that I play, because I'm so used to playing Smash Bros. On a console rather than a handheld. So
for me, as someone who doesn't play Nintendo games, I'm not much of a Nintendo fan. I've never really seen Nintendo doing anything to entice me. Like you say, there's never much, or there's not been much news recently of stuff coming out. I do get interested now and then in the 3DS. There's been some games on the 3DS that possibly would make me buy one, but I've not really seen that same thing going on for the Wii U in recent years.
yeah, and I think it's partly what I was saying before about it'd be really interesting to say project yourself about 10 years in the future and see what they've decided to do, because a part of me could really see them almost completely cutting off the console part and just completely focusing on handhelds, making it the best they can, because they're completely dominating that market, and not struggle. Well, they are. They're struggling in the console market, going up against Sony and Microsoft, and like they've done at E3, they're not physically going to be at E3. They've decided to not compete against those other two companies. So it'd be interesting to see if they do that in their console variations as well.
See, I think the weird thing is with the Wii, all the Wii fan base, the casual market. I hate to use that word casual and hardcore, but the casual market that was there in the first place has moved on to tablets, smartphones, and all that stuff. That was what made the majority of the Wii sales. I mean, when you really look back to it, the GameCube didn't sell too well. The N64, I mean, they all sold fine, but N64 didn't sell well. I think the only consoles that have been super, super successful for Nintendo have been the NES, the Super Nintendo, and the Wii, obviously,
Yeah.
And I think what they really need to do is decide if they want to be, a hardcore gaming market with, new IPs and all this stuff, and even, the Nintendo things going on, like, Mario Kart and all that. Or they're going to be they can't be friendly anymore. They can't be. I mean, I don't mind kid-friendly games or anything like that. But what I'm saying is they can't be this casual fan base with the Wii Sports market has left, and they need to decide what to do. They can't be in this weird limbo.
Yeah.
They need to decide.
Yeah, and they said very recently that they're creating their new consoles from growing trends and not just simply copying stuff like the Wii to the Wii U, etc. They're creating these from the ground up with growing trends, but then they followed that by saying, yeah, we're not going to transfer to smartphones or things like that, when that, I would say, is a very clear growing trend. So they are making their Mario Kart companion app and stuff, but they don't have any plans to move to some kind of smartphone or anything like that. So I just found that I don't know what to say about them at the minute, but I think they need to figure out what they are hoping to achieve and then put their future plans in motion as soon as possible. Because I feel like for a company that was so huge in the late 90s, early 2000s, where they were in their swing with Mario, I feel like that they're almost in danger of tarnishing that reputation right now with the Wii U sales and things like that. So I'd hate to see a company that I grew up loving struggle the way they are at the minute.
Yeah, exactly. I think for most of us have grown up with those consoles, or have been around them a little bit. So I definitely feel like Nintendo at the moment's thinking that they're this huge superpower they were back in the 90s, when in reality they really aren't. But at the same time, they're actually in a position that they can't really go any worse than they are right now with the Wii U. So, I mean, unless they pull something really bad, I think it's only moving up for the Wii U right now. So, I think if they do, they play the right cards and all that, I think they could actually have a very successful console life with the Wii U and have some, really classic games. Like, I loved Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. That was a great game. Not really talked about, but, there's been some hidden gems, and they just really need to get these games out instead of just, I mean, the Wii U's release schedule has been very, very, slim lately, so it's going to be interesting to see what they do with it at their E3 or Nintendo Directs.
Yeah, especially think in a year or so, it'd be interesting to see the Wii U sales and where they've gone from there, because arguably you'd have to say Mario Kart and Smash Bros are, two of their biggest draws, at least in their top 5 of their biggest draws, and they're both coming out within that year window, so it'd be interesting to see how well they go with all those on the market.
Yeah.
Alright guys, that about wraps up the first edition of the Restart Replay podcast. This is Nick signing off.
Landon signing off.
And Steve signing off.
Alright, see you all next time.
Alright, see ya.